The West was ground zero for the wasteful actions of the American people. Americans had numerous resources, but people had looted and polluted America's land and left it in terrible condition. Land developers took over large areas of forest and grazing lands just so they could build their new infrastructures, not even concerning themselves with how wasteful and harmful this was to the environment. Mining companies practiced improper and unacceptable mining practices that were damaging our environment. The rise of industrialization also contributed to the need for more resources and the further destruction of our country. Using a large supply of natural resources, America started a tradition of waste. America was destroying resources that other countries would need to survive, and we were hurting our environment as a result. The United States needed conservation, and as a result, many beautiful areas of land were saved because of it.
Teddy Roosevelt was often referred to as the conservationist president due to his significant role during the Progressive Era. Before his two terms, the U.S.'s public health was deteriorating with poor sanitation and the spread of diseases. He believed that clean water, public transportation, and garbage pickups were necessary to improve the city's well-being. Conservation increasingly became one of Roosevelt's main concerns going into office. After becoming president in 1901, Roosevelt used his authority to protect wildlife and public lands by creating the Newlands Act of 1902 and the Inland Waterways Commission. During his presidency, Theodore Roosevelt protected approximately 230 million acres of public land. To express his support of conservatism, he even went as far as banning Christmas trees from the White House. In addition, Roosevelt was also the first president to create a federal bird reserve, which further went on to become today's National Wildlife Refuges. His devotion to conserving our natural history helped establish a precedent at an important time in our nation's history. When many still considered our resources limitless, Roosevelt saw them as something to protect.
John Muir is regarded as the United States' most famous and influential naturalist and conservationist. He was an early advocate of the preservation of the United States wilderness and wrote 10 major books, including My First Night in the Sierra and The Yosemite, which recounts his time spent in the Yosemite Valley. John's perspective on life changed when he was nearly blinded by a factory accident, and after that life-changing event, he began to learn everything he could about nature and life untouched by humans. If it weren't for John Muir and his writings, we probably wouldn't have many of the national parks we have today. John was involved in the creation of the Grand Canyon, Kings Canyon, Petrified Forest, Mount Rainier National Parks, and Yosemite National Park. Muir was the president of the Sierra Club since its formation in 1892. He successfully fought for the creation of Yosemite Park in 1890 and then asked Theodore Roosevelt when he visited the park for additional protections in 1903. Throughout his life, John Muir was instrumental in preserving America's wilderness and establishing numerous national parks. The environmental movement began in the 19th century and goes along with the conservationist beliefs of conserving, preserving, and improving the environment. This idea began in the 20th century during the time they focused heavily on improving the environments of the factories in working class neighborhoods. This was during a time Samuel Hayes argued that environmentalists fought to improve the consumer's quality of life. People became aware that their national parks needed more protection from 1901 to 1913 when the Raker Act was passed. This act allowed for San Francisco to destroy Hetch Hetchy Valley, a part in the Yosemite National Park John Muir has spent years trying to protect. The rise of the modern environmental movement came about after World War II. There was much new technology and advancements which led to the new environmental dangers. This made people more aware of possible risks and the need to improve our environment for the benefit of the future.
Gifford Pinchot was an American forester who advocated for the conservation of the nation's reserve by planned use and renewal. He established a controlled, profitable use of forests and other natural resources so they be of maximum benefit to mankind. The United States Forest Service, established in 1905, was created to preserve one of the nation's most valuable natural resources. Pinchot was appointed the first chief of this new agency, determined to care for the natural forests. The United States Forest Service still continues to expand our forests and transfer land to the Department of the Interior for our national parks. In addition, John Muir's Sierra Club, which is still around today, was initiated to protect the earth and promote the responsible use of our natural resources. It was one of the first large-scale environmental preservation organizations in the world and currently engages in lobbying politicians to promote green policies. In the beginning of the 1900s, the Sierra Club became involved in the Hetch Hetchy Valley, opposing the building of the dam, but lost its first major battle when the bill was passed by Congress. Instead, they focused on the creation of the National Park Service in 1916, restore quality to the natural environment.